Let me introduce Narjis really quickly. Narjis is a recent graduate, much like many other people are about to be over here, from in electrical engineering from Habib University, Karachi. Through Habib University's liberal arts education program, Narjis has been introduced to different forms of knowledge, and she soon developed a very keen interest in design. And during her undergraduate, she's worked as a design researcher at Playground, Transdisciplinary Design and Innovation Lab, and as a design thinking facilitator. Now she has started her graduate education with Masters in Integrated Innovation for Products and Services at the Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, USA. So ये तो मैंने verbatim पढ़ दिया यहाँ से Nargis, but I know that this doesn't do justice because I know I told you to just write a couple of lines. It's not fair to you. So I want you to go ahead and talk about all these other things because I know Mahveen just sent me a message talking about how you were part of the Summer Sisters as well.
Oh yeah.
And you forgot, you just literally didn't mention that. I mean, come on, you must mention that.
Okay, first of all, thank you, Ramla, for doing this. Everyone, actually, we're in the same time zone, and it's 6:30, 7 a.m. And Ramla has been here since 4 at the least. So I really appreciate her passion, her initiative so much. It's so fascinating. So actually, I got introduced to Ramla, I think, last week, 2 weeks at max. She was taking part in one of the webinars by Habib. After that, I just shoot up her LinkedIn, and then we just started to talk. In that webinar, she said something that really hit a chord in me, which is that girls in our community don't really get inspired by if I tell them Marie Curie or Grace Hopper's story, because that's not someone who they relate to, because their struggles are not the same as someone in Karachi, Hyderabad, or anywhere in Pakistan, right? So, and I absolutely agree with that. So I think I'll start this session. I think I have like 10-15 minutes tops. I'll start with my story as well. So back in school, I actually really wanted to go in biology and medicine. I was crazy after cardiology. मैंने बड़े होके बस cardiologist ही बनना था. At this point, I'm unaware if that was because I liked biology or did I like my biology teacher. I soon realized it was the latter and not the field itself. So I pivoted into engineering. Then in high school, I went for pre-engineering. Now, unlike many in which they have that, constant pressure from family, कि नहीं doctor बनना है या engineer बनना है, I was actually a first-gen student. I was a first-gen college student from my entire immediate and extended family. So girls in my community, in my family, don't study beyond high school. So उसकी वजह से जब मैंने undergrad में जाना था, I was very unlike the constant pressure कि नहीं engineer बनना है. I took this blind shot कि okay, let's just do electrical engineering with little to no guidance about what really is the future perspective. And as a college student, I was very, very confused. I'm sure a lot of young women over here would be able to relate to that as well. Long story short, I came to Habib. Habib has this wonderful curriculum in which they make even the engineering students take a lot of non-engineering courses as well. So I was introduced to a lot of courses in, let's say, capitalism, modernity, PAMSA, which was Pakistan and Modern South Asia, Islamic aesthetics, Hikmah, all of this, right? So it was very interesting. And luckily, alhamdulillah, I came across this one course by Ahmed Ansari. At that point, he was actually CMU PhD candidate over here. It was about systems thinking and basically sociology. With that course, I think that just absolutely changed my career path, because I realized there was so much beyond engineering or what I was exposed to that I did not even realize existed. And by the end of my graduation, which still happened in electrical engineering, I had pivoted a lot, even during those 4 years. So by the graduation, one of my biggest realizations was engineers can stay in the labs, engineer all day long. But then if at the end of the day, they're not making truly human-centered, user-centered products or innovation, they're not adding value to anyone at the end of the day. And that just made me question, then what's the point of the entire hoax in our society, right? Ki nahi engineer banna hai ya doctor banna hai, but what's the value that you're adding? I also realized that they work in silos, collaborative nature की चीज है, we're not making it collaborative anymore. कि अलग अगर इलेक्ट्रिकल इंजीनियरिंग करना है तो वो कंप्यूटर साइंस के साथ प्रोजेक्ट नहीं कर सकता. Why? Who actually established these ground rules? And thus I realized that engineering is actually a mindset. It's the fact that you problem solve, but in which vertical, in which application you do it, that's completely up to you. An engineer can go to a bank and still create innovation over there because it's the mindset that he's bringing over there. It's not the fact that he knows how to, or she knows how to solve a circuit. So surprisingly, even though I wasn't planning to talk about it, but I'll just share an anecdote. Right after my graduation, I actually worked as a management trainee in one of the banks for a few months before I started over here with my graduate studies. And it was horrible to say the least, because people were not reciprocative of the fact that a female engineer can pivot from engineering into financial industry. Because engineering की है तो अब आपने जो है पूरी जिंदगी अपनी engineering ही करनी है. And that was really heartbreaking. At one point, actually, someone had the audacity to say to me कि अच्छा फिर आपने पिछले 4 साल अपना टाइम जाया किया था या अब टाइम जाया कर रही है. And at that point, again, I'm very rigid, very tough person. I was like, मैंने कभी भी नहीं किया था और मैं अभी भी नहीं कर रही हूँ. So it's very difficult for our industry to accept people pivoting from one industry to another, or even having a collaborative nature. And thus, I realized my interest lied a lot at the intersection of engineering and design and business, instead of just remaining purely technical. So I was introduced to this field of human-centered design, and a lot of it is actually talked about. Mariam ki speech mein bhi acha khasa tha. Isse pehle even Zartaj had a few incredible points about empathy, about prototyping. And even though I was initially planning कि मैं जो है उसी के बारे में थोड़ा सा करूं, but then I'll just go over the surface of it now. The human-centered design, it's a very fancy term when we say it, but then understanding it it's very difficult to fathom at the end of the day. Why? Because what essentially happens is that creators or innovators really just immerse themselves in end users' daily life. They try to understand their struggles, their stress points, their pain points. And the major component in HCD is empathy, and which is, wait, let me just ask someone over here if anyone can you tell me the difference between empathy and sympathy? Anyone, just like unmute your mic and go ahead.
Yes, so basically, I think empathy is a very, very integral part of being a leader. Without empathy, you can't understand the people working under you, and you can't really fulfill their needs. And sympathy is basically just feeling an emotion for someone that, okay, I feel bad that they're going through this. But empathy is putting the self in their shoes and in their position, and really seeing the world from their perspective.
Thank you so much, Sharmeen. That's exactly what I was looking for. I'm so glad. Thank you for just taking the initiative, because that's exactly what the difference is, right? Empathy is जब मैं अपने आप को बिल्कुल उनके scenario में रख के अपने आप को imagine करूँ, and sympathy is when I'm being myself and from afar I'm trying to understand them. And there's a lot of difference when it comes to the insights that you develop based on empathy or sympathy. और इसीलिए as engineers, our gut instinct is, okay, मुझे problem पता है, that is the solution. Instead of really just empathizing with the user, with who at the end of the day would be using the product, would be fascinated by the innovation, and they just jump to the conclusion, to the result, to the solution कि अच्छा नहीं मुझे पता है इसमें ये वाला circuit use होगा, ये वाला algorithm use होगा, let's do this. It's very different at the end, क्योंकि जो है because understanding the problem space and waiting for a solution to organically come up, that's very difficult. It's very, even right now as design practitioners, even in one of the most prestigious institutes over here, one thing that they ask us ki jo hai, sabar kare. If you're getting an idea, just park it in a parking lot, put it somewhere that's that where you can go later on and grab the idea. But right now, just really focus on the problem, fall in love with the problem instead of attaching yourself to the solution. So empathy is very, very important when it comes to human-centered design. Another, again, I think Mariam talked a lot about it, was iteration and testing. You're not creating the product for yourself. You're not making it for your benefits. At the end, who's going to use it has to really like it, and it should be seamlessly integrated in their daily lives. So getting that constant feedback, improving, iterating again, prototyping again, feedback. It's a very constant cycle, and until you realize, okay, maybe this point at this iteration, at this prototype, we're actually adding value to a customer. And that is what makes it, truly user-centric products. And that's what brings innovation at the end as well. And again, there's an entire design thinking framework जो आप follow करके उस चीज पे आ सकते हैं. But the holy trinity that human-centered design talks a lot about is feasibility, viability, and desirability. So we'll go over all three of them shortly. Feasibility क्या है कि जो है, whatever you're building, are you building on the strengths of whatever your organization's current capabilities are? You're not reinventing the wheel all the time. There are few set design patterns, right? And that just validates the idea कि अगर एक पंखा है, उसमें अगर इस तरह से flaps निकले हुए हैं, you don't need to all the time reinvent the wheel, but you can take the current condition of a fan and you can change it into a desired condition. And based on whatever capabilities, whatever resources your organization currently has. So uske liye, what really happens is that organizations look internally and objectively to assess their strengths, which could be technology, the financials, the branding, the customer service, partnerships, and really just ask themselves, is it something that I'm building up on, or is it that I'm starting from the very scratch? So feasibility is very important when it comes to human-centered design. Then there's desirability. What your customer really need. Agar desirability nahi hai aapke product mein, trust me, no one's going to use it at the end of the day. The only reason why is Google Maps, the overarching only map application that we use it, because it's just so user intuitive. मैंने जो है, I don't need to be a geography expert in order to search one to another and travel, right? Because that's how they've made it desirable for me कि मैंने अपनी current position है, मैंने अपना destination डालना है, and they'll tell me the way. So it really just tests whether your innovation is solving the right customer problem or not. And the test for desirability focuses on whether your solution is nice to have or must to have for you. And there's a difference between these two. I can have, let's say, tell me one app that's a nice to have. Okay, Facebook for me, that's nice to have. But LinkedIn for me is must to have. Why? Because that's where I generate my opportunities for. So for someone who's at LinkedIn, their customer segment is me, because they're not creating a social networking website, they're creating a professional networking website. So really just understanding who your users, who your customers are, what are they trying to help me with, that's very important. And then last but not the least, viability. You need to make money out of it. No organization, that's the sad truth, but then I don't think anyone disagrees to this, right? No organization would go through so much struggle if they don't see a return on their investment. That investment could be monetary investment, could be resources, could be time, could be energy that they're giving in so much, but then it's natural human instinct that you expect a return on it. So viability essentially just focuses on the value chain of the solution to ensure that there's some revenue generation, but also in a sustainable way. So sustainable business model is very important. And human centered, ये तीन तो मैंने आपको explain कर दिया. लेकिन human centered design happens at the intersection of these three, which we call the sweet spot. यहाँ पे आपका innovation is bringing revenue in terms of viability, a sustainable revenue generation stream. It's targeting the right customer and right problem, which is the desirability. And it's really building up on companies, organizations' strength, which is the feasibility. And at this point, I understand that it just sounds so common sense. Okay, yes, of course, if I'm making something, I need to make it for someone who I'm making it for, right? But the reality is this is not how things happen in our industry, especially in the industry in Pakistan. Aapka jo feasibility or viability, that's always more preferred than desirability because that's organizations' priorities lie at. And that it's upsetting, but it's the truth. So, and वहाँ पे honestly, अगर आप वहाँ पे जाके किसी को कहें कि oh design thinking, oh human design, they're gonna say it's a buzzword because that's how they see it as well. कि it's a first world problems are very different than third world problems. यहाँ पे we have the liberty कि हम जो है एक app के interface पे we can spend millions of dollars because it's gonna bring in millions of dollars as well. But in Pakistan, that's not how things work, right? We have very limited revenue. We have to generate more revenue from that same amount as well. So it just naturally makes sense. But then I think this is high time where we bring that mindset shift. कि जो है कि it's not just a buzzword. It can be very seamlessly integrated. And what is it? It's problem solving at the end of the day, right? So just take the problem as design exclusiveness and turn it into your solution should be design inclusion. And that's how, you bring innovation. So that's just really what I wanted to talk about, what I'm so passionate about. But again, I think there's no better platform than this at this point through which I can communicate that, yes, there's just so much. And a lot of people, I understand, you can be engineers, but you can also bring in very seamlessly design, business, and other aspect, and really just create innovation and impact at the end of the day.
Absolutely. No, so many people forget कि बहुत regular चीजें जैसे snowboards and skateboards were actually made by engineers because somehow we can understand physics, but we also understand the human aspect of it. And you use the word sweet spot. I believe that really hits the nail on the head. You really have to find that conjunction of all of these things, especially I think in the middle of crisis that we are at. Necessity is the mother of invention, correct? So here is where this design thinking really comes into play. A lot of the innovation that we saw during the pandemic was actually very much necessary regardless, but nobody really felt the pressing need of it so far. So everything that you were saying, I was nodding my head because I was like, yes, she's right. Yes, she's right. Thank you so much, Narjis. Inshallah, as we move forward with 2021, I'd really like to invite you to have a longer, extended version of this conversation because I'm sure we as engineers all need to learn because we learned science through books and we learned to apply it through books. And most of us here haven't graduated yet, so the real world hasn't hit us yet, right? So learning these things of really molding ourselves into what the human use case scenario is, rather than, the easy textbook version of it, is really going to help us actually go out and build solutions. With that, if anyone has any questions from our amazing speaker, now is your time. Go ahead, please.
I've also put my LinkedIn profile in the chat, so just feel free and leave me a message. If I can just say one last point.
Yeah.
only way I could, bring this, I could be a part of this opportunity is when I just messaged Ramla on LinkedIn that, oh, I was part of this webinar you had. It was wonderful. And you see that one message just really generated this for me. It can do wonders for you if you just network with the right people, and trust me, all the time. There's no one, it's not just what you know, it's also who you know that really comes in handy. So just really take advantage of this. And if you ever need anything else, let me know.
So I have a question, Narjis. I know that you really had the opportunity and mashallah the privilege to touch different aspects of life during your tenure at Habib University. बहुत सारे हम दूसरी जगहों के इंजीनियर्स हैं जिनको बस एक घिसा पिटा करिकुलम पकड़ा दिया जाता है, जो वही 40 साल से वही पढ़ा रहे हैं, वही प्रोफेसर्स पढ़ा रहे हैं जो 40 साल पहले पढ़ा रहे थे, right? So nothing really changes. What are some things that such people, such as myself, who grew up in that environment, can do to break the shackles of our minds in that regard?
Sure. Let me just make one thing very clear. No one is lucky. आपको मेरा where I am today, आपको वो देख के लग रहा होगा कि oh my god, she's so lucky. She from Khan, she went to Habib. Now she's in CMU. Things worked out for her. They don't work out 90% of the time, but the remaining 10% of the time, that's when So if I am where I am, it's not because I worked 10% of the time. I worked 100% of the time.
Absolutely.
So what really, one thing that can never go wrong is your ability to initiate new experiences. If you're not discovering what's out there, if you're just so satisfied, I understand it's very easy to be in the comfort zone, but then you at one point you will realize that you need to transition from comfort zone to learning zone. And there's another zone outside of learning zone, which is called panic zone. Don't go there. Only hinder where it will only hinder your presence in the learning zone. But at least up comfort zone se learning zone mein to jaye. And again, if you're here, you've already taken the initiative, right? Just one of the things that you can do is something that can never go wrong is information and knowledge. The only reason why I discovered that I like design and I like HCD, and this is where I find my interest between engineering, design, and business, is because मैंने जो अहमद से course लिया था, that was not about HCD at all. But then the things that he gave me, the pointers about systems thinking, about sociology, they just sparked an interest in me such that I discovered and stumbled upon it myself, right? That initiative, playground people did not come and give me the opportunity, okay, we're looking for design researchers, can you be one? That's not how the real world works. So you have to find and create opportunities for yourself. Again, I think Mariam also mentioned it, Coursera, Udemy, edX, they're amazing resources. You can never go wrong on this, because even if, let's say, मैंने जो है intro to software engineering का course लिया on them, I don't like it, what's the worst that's going to happen? Nothing. Because even if I spent like 20 hours learning one new skill, brag about it. You're going to use it at some point later on as well. There's so many online resources. इतना ज़्यादा digital platform की तरफ shift आ गया है. There's Interaction Design Foundation, IDF. Go through that. They have a lot of new courses and short courses certification as well. I'll write the name here as well. And there's this Acumen Academy. They also have online courses. And unlike Coursera or Udemy, in which you take it on your pace, इसमें आप enroll करते हैं, you take it with a few other people as well around you. So that really just helps build the community as well. So just use those and don't shy away from asking questions. If had I not asked the right question to the right people, I would not be where I am.
Very well said, Narjis, and thank you so much. I was going to say that the line between the learning zone and the panic zone is hair thin. So I often find myself in the panic zone. But that's because nobody really sat us down and tutored us as to, okay, where to stop pushing your boundaries. Somebody previously asked me, how do I manage personal life and work life? It's very difficult. I am constantly juggling, and sometimes I find myself completely burned out as well. That's when I take complete breaks. So for folks like you to talk about these things, it's really encouraging. That shows that there are people who have this cognitive ability to understand, okay, that's it. I am getting into the panic zone, and that's where I need to really realize my limitations and stop. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Narjis, for your time. I know I mean, अलग सुबह आपको हमने engage किया. I usually do that because I work in 2 time zones, so EST as well as Pakistan time zone. I'm used to this. Lekin thank you. I do completely appreciate you coming here, engaging with us. I beseech everyone, I implore upon everyone here who joined us today to follow Narjis. She's going somewhere really good. With that, if anyone has any questions, now should be the time. If not, you know that you can always get in touch with us through all the different portals that we have. To all the people still here, I believe Salimullah has his hand raised, but I don't know if there's still a question, or was this earlier? I just noticed this.
Yeah, I just raised my hand. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was really nice to interact. So I have a question from Narjis, that how do you keep yourself committed to an idea that others don't find that much interesting, and no matter how its benefits or its monetary benefits are, but you're passionate about you're passionate about that idea and wants to to execute it. Thank you.
That's a wonderful question. I'll say this one thing, that there is this difference between idea and execution. Idea तो मेरे पास भी दिन में 50 आते हैं. यानी कितनों पे, how many have I executed? The beauty lies in the execution. And if you really just master that, that's when you start creating innovation or value. It's very difficult to have faith in the process. हम बहुत ज़्यादा कहते हैं कि नहीं, spend half of the time working on the problem. When you absolutely love the problem, that's when you'll create an organic solution that actually solves the problem and not the problem that you think you're solving. So it's very difficult to have faith in that process. If you're, spending, if it's, let's say, a 4-month project, आप अगर दो महीने अगर आप सिर्फ problem space में काम कर रहे हैं, it gets very triggering at one point कि अब मैं solution space में कब जाऊंगा. It's very difficult to maintain that faith. लेकिन you just need to know that कि अगर आपने जो है, just maintain that faith कि अगर आपने, if you've really stumbled upon the right problem and you know what you're solving, at the end of the day solution निकल आएगा. So, क्योंकि जो है but yeah, solution निकल आएगा. And then I think that's a little deviant from the question that you asked actually, which is how do you remain motivated to solve it? You know how Ramla said previously, there's no one self-made. It's always your community, your support system who brought you where you are. That's very important. Keep someone accountable for your growth. Okay, that's very difficult to implement, but just like ask your friend, listen, I have this idea, I'm very passionate about it. Can you just ensure that I spend 2 hours a day, every day working on this? Don't start with, I want to go full time. No, start with something small, but build something big from this. So building that transparency and that accountability for the work that you're doing, and always include more people. You will not have all the answers to one problem, and you will not always get the right ideas as well. When it comes to collaborative organizations and teams, what someone else brings is equally important to what you're bringing, which is your passion. So just try to, try to engage more people. The more people you bring in, again, the right people, the more probability you increase of creating impact. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much. Sana, go ahead. Sanaullah has a question as well.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम मैम।
वालेकुम अस्सलाम।
मैम मेरा एक सवाल है नरजिस मैम से कि हाउ टू स्टे फोकस ऑन एन आइडिया टू बी एग्जीक्यूटेड, क्योंकि आइडियाज तो बहुत सारे आ जाते हैं, लेकिन उसको एग्जीक्यूट करने के लिए फोकस और कंसिस्टेंसी कैसे लाएंगे? क्योंकि अक्सर हम आइडिया सोचते हैं लेकिन फिर उसको एग्जीक्यूट नहीं कर सकते, और फिर अगर एग्जीक्यूट कर भी ले तो कंसिस्टेंसी फिर नहीं हो सकती। तो फोकस लाइफ में कैसे लाएंगे किसी पर्टिकुलर आइडिया पे, और कंसिस्टेंसी कैसे मतलब कि एग्जीक्यूट करेंगे? थैंक यू।
Thank you for asking this. I think even as a design practitioner, one of the एक चीज जिससे मैं बहुत ज्यादा struggle करती हूँ, that is actually how do I remain focused on that. I'm a strong believer in tools build up the skills. If you're using the right tools, you can eventually build up the skills as well. तो अगर मैं Photoshop use कर रही हूँ, I have this faith कि मैं 2 महीने बाद I will be able to write that, oh, I'm a graphic designer, because Photoshop has enabled me to really work on that. There are infinite tools available on the internet. Internet can be as beautiful of a place as it can be dark. Utilize its strengths. बहुत ज़्यादा tools हैं. Just go and search like INPD framework, which is Integrated New Product Development Framework. Framework है पूरा, उसमें वो आपको steps तोड़ के बताते हैं कि आपने अभी जो है पेस्टल एनालिसिस करना है, आपने जो है उसके बाद जो है डिसीजन मैट्रिक्स करना है, कंपटीशन एनालिसिस करना है, ये करना है, ब्ला 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 ब्ला. It's very equip yourself with the right information and then you will be able to implement it in your idea if you take the initiative. कोई भी आपको प्लेट में लाके जो है एग्जीक्यूट हुआ आइडिया नहीं देगा कि लें जी सना हमने कर लिया है, it's yours from now on. That's not how it happens. So take the right initiative, go look for tools. There are so many tools. And again, अगर आप अपना knowledge base बढ़ाएंगे तो ही आप उसको implement कर सकेंगे in daily life. So again, initiative लें, not just in I obsess over so many ideas that I have every day, लेकिन मैं initiative नहीं लेती हूँ. So that's where I lack, right? Initiative लें, look for tools and look for information as well. And yeah, one last point. If you start rolling the ball, trust me, you'll remain motivated, because it's a human psychology कि अगर मैंने एक चीज में 40 घंटे invest कर दिए हैं, I do not want to just stop at that point because I've invested 40 hours. So once just you get the ball rolling, you will remain motivated if you're passionate about the problem. Yeah, that's my.
And I'd like to chime in here. Once you get started, find a mentor. It has so much value to have and find a high value mentor. ये नहीं कि किसी दोस्त यार को बना लिया अपना mentor. Mentor का मतलब है कि there's someone whom you go to with an agenda कि हाँ आज मुझे ये problems हैं, मुझे इनका direct जवाब चाहिए और आपके experience से मैं सीखना चाहता हूँ. तो आप mentor कोई ऐसा शख्स ढूंढते हैं जिसका वक्त आप जाया करना afford नहीं कर सकते. That's my key trick that I keep कि अच्छा कोई mentor कौन सा होना चाहिए, right? That means this person has established themselves that much in their life कि वो जो काम कर रहे हैं वो चल पड़ा है, and they definitely have some tricks in their pocket that can help you. So that's one thing that has genuinely kept me motivated when I have struck the darkest depth of any pit where I've been. That's where seeking help from someone really helps out. Hadia, I know if you have a question. I believe that should be the last question for
yes,
today.
I have a question from Narjis. You basically focused on like problem orientation के problem को देखें क्या है, उस पे ज़्यादा time लगाएं to think about it. But most of times we listen कि नहीं, इंसान को solution oriented होना चाहिए. So what are your comments on this regard?
Solution orient और solution create करने में difference है. When you're problem oriented, you start with the problem and then you transition into the solution. If you just start with the solution, then you're creating the solution that you want without understanding who and what you're trying to solve it for. So yes, you have to be solution oriented with the mindset कि अगर मैं problem से start कर रही हूँ, so I'm eventually going to land a solution. But so that is exactly what solution oriented mindset is. But how that process starts and how that process flows, it starts with problem, with understanding user, with understanding the problem and the opportunity. What opportunity can you create, right? So what opportunity you want to create, that starts with understanding the problem, that eventually leads to creating a solution. Like you can't, if you want to add value, you can't directly jump to the solution and then backtrace कि अच्छा मैंने solution तो ये बना लिया, इससे problem ये solve हो रहा है. That's not the approach. The approach starts with the problem, ending on the solution.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much.